Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com, That Kevin Show on all social media, and thatkevinshow@gmail.com if you want to drop an good old-fashioned email. I used to think actually handwritten letters were old-fashioned. Now it's email. Anyway, it's a strange day we live in. But, maybe education had something to do with that. And speaking of education, that seems to be on the chopping block if the Trump administration has its way. Jonathan Butcher is part of the Heritage Foundation. He's a senior fellow there, and he joins us to discuss. Jonathan, my viewers and listeners have for a long time known that the Department of Education is a bureau of 4,300 bloated employees that don't really do anything to contribute to the learning of any of our kids. I'm much more interested in finding out not whether we should be getting rid of the Department of Education, but how quickly and what are the steps to making it happen? What's your assessment?
Well, what the president has done just in the past 2 weeks has been a huge step in that direction. So he has kept essential services, which should ease the minds of parents. So things like money for children in low-income areas, money for children with disabilities, even the student loan program, all of those are going to continue as they are statutorily required. Now, there has been a pretty significant reduction in force. It's called a RIF. Moved about half of the employees to a pretty generous retirement package just in the last 10 days or so. So that was a big step. And now I think that there are some smaller programs that the agency can work on or that the secretary can work on closing. But the big thing now is as we see where the loan program is going to go, whether it's going to go to Treasury or whether it could be another administration. That's a big sum of money. And it is just not in the Constitution for Washington to be the default lender for student loans. So that'll be the next big step.
Doesn't it make sense for Treasury just to assume that? I mean, they're good at setting up accounts and making sure that the ledgers are balanced. It would seem like that would just be the natural place for it to go.
Could be, though there are other offices, either independent of Washington or semi-independent, that handle these kinds of loans. So Treasury is a great alternative. There may be others. I think the good thing to know is that the president has said at least once, and the secretary has echoed it, that this will be a part of the dismantling of the agency, will be moving the loan program. And look, this is entirely appropriate. There was a time when private lenders had more of a stake and gave students more options, really, as they look to pay for higher ed. As Washington has become more involved, as taxpayers have been funding more and more student loans, tuition has gone up, right? This is the Bennett hypothesis from the late 1980s, that the more that taxpayers contribute to student loan programs, the more that tuition is going to go up, because colleges know that the taxpayer will foot the bill.
It's a money train. It's just keep sending the dollars in, of course. Okay, so I don't really think that there's much concern in terms of legitimacy for any of the things you just outlined. This was a hugely overfed bureaucratic block of people that, as I said at the beginning, the outset, didn't really contribute to the learning of the average student, didn't do much to improve reading scores or math scores across the country. This was an experiment in federalizing something that the founders never envisioned us federalizing. And I've always thought that, like most laws, education is best controlled when it's, closest to the student, closest to the consumer. Will there be a boost at the local level? Will these monies be being returned back to local communities? And will that improve, in your estimation, the future and the overall outcome for students?
Well, a significant sum is spent already per student. I mean, we're talking upwards of almost $17,000 per child, of which Washington federal taxpayers make up about 10%. So it's a pretty comparatively modest sum, right? Most of the spending is coming from states and local taxpayers anyway. I think what we're going to see immediately, though, is that as we reduce the footprint, even if we don't get to the point of closing the agency tomorrow, even as we reduce the federal footprint, that will mean less in terms of regulations and rules, dear colleague letters that come from Washington telling schools what to do, coercing them to, I don't know, adopt national standards as they tried to do back, only 10 or 12 years ago. It was only, about that long ago that the Obama administration tried to get schools to hold quotas for the kids who they suspended or expelled, regardless of how kids behaved. I mean, it was clearly an effort to say you may not suspend or expel Black or Hispanic students, regardless of what they do. And that took away teacher control of the classroom, right? How can a teacher maintain order if they have restrictions on how they can enforce the rules?
Yeah.
So I think by eliminating these kinds of regulations, that is going to free up states and local districts to then make decisions in the best interests of their unique kids.
Which is what should be happening. Parents in those districts should ultimately have the final say on how those schools are run. And that's why I would love to see lots and lots of parents run for school board. Don't leave it to some professional politician to serve on the school board. You serve on the school board. If you've got it, and when your kid's out, get out. Let another parent come in who's got skin in the game. But I think that's where you get ultimate accountability and ultimate progress, because you've got people that are in the driver's seat that are actually going, well, this is what our kids are dealing with, and this is where they need to get to by the end of their time. It's ironic what you brought up about the spending per student. I was just at the New Jersey summit this last week in downstate in Atlantic City. The Republicans were meeting there, and they were hosting gubernatorial candidates, and they were talking about educational standards and how you have in, for instance, Atlantic or in some of the downstate school districts, you have spending that's $10,000 or $12,000 per student. In Newark, you have $37,000 spent per student, and the outcomes are completely opposite. Where the money goes is not where the results go. So where's all that money going? I mean, that's the lack of transparency in this entire process is maddening on one level. But then when you compare that with the actual outcomes of what they're getting for those dollars, it's insanity.
Well, sure. Now, remember, 80+% of a school's budget goes to salaries and benefits. So much of this is going to teacher salaries already. And in states like New Jersey, New York, California, the unions have such control over the contract process with teachers that they benefit from any lobbying that is done to raise teacher pay. Now, listen. Effective teachers should be compensated appropriately. There's no question about that.
But make it merit, baby. Put it all on best performing teachers.
Well, and when unions make it virtually impossible to fire low-performing teachers, we set up a system where the students are the losers. And that's really what's happened. I mean, we've known that for years, right? Yeah. Unions make it virtually impossible to have teachers who are not effective let go.
Jonathan Butcher of the Heritage Foundation, appreciate your work. Thank you for giving us some insight on all of this. Best wishes.
Thank you.
Kevin McCullough coming back from Times Square. Don't change that dial.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.